everyone, and welcome to Skyrocket, a place we want to help you take your skills to the next level. I'm Chris, and I'm joined with my co-host, Jose.
Hey, Chris, I'm excited to launch Skyrocket. I think we're going to cover a lot of really, really important topics that are going to help the folks out here listening to us.
Absolutely, Jose. So why don't we start by sharing a little bit about our backgrounds and what our listeners might benefit from by coming to these Skyrocket talks?
Sure. Well, I'm Jose Perez. I've been in sales in the real estate vertical for more years than I care to tell you. Done everything from franchise sales, mergers and acquisitions, strategic planning, recruiting, prop tech, SaaS. I mean, pretty much everything. And not just in the US, I've done a few things overseas as well. But I think the thing that people will know about me if they've worked for me or been involved with me in any way is my love for and expertise in spin selling. It's a consultative sales process that really makes a difference. And it says spin selling, but it's really not selling. It's really asking questions and listening. And that's so important. So many salespeople are not disciplined and they just kind of pitch their product and they don't listen as well as they should. And if you are really disciplined and you use this method, which we're going to talk about here over the next few months, you'll really understand what someone's issues are and be able to convert their needs into a sale. And we'll talk about that at length over time. So, Chris, how about you?
Yeah, we intersect in our backgrounds in a couple ways, looking at real estate and SaaS products and training. But my longer background is very different. I come from the nonprofit and also academia. No matter what I've done, I've always been involved in education and teaching, and I've spent time deciphering ancient texts all the way to coaching executives. So all over the place, no matter where I get involved, I love to teach. And what really drives me is to see that light that comes on in someone's eyes when they have grasped something, it's become a skill for them, and it sets them up for success. And that's what we want to do through these Skyrocket talks, is that very thing.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Chris, one of the things, and one of the reasons I think you and I hit it off when we worked together over the past few years is that passion for helping people be better. I can't tell you how gratifying it is for me years, I mean, literally 15, 20 years after someone worked for me, running into them at a conference or, having lunch or dinner with them, and they're thanking me for the things I taught them. And to me, that is worth more than whatever money I ever made, with my jobs. I think it's awesome. And you leave a legacy, right? And,
Yep.
and that's so important to me.
That is the most rewarding thing, is you do run into people and they can share with you, people you remember having conversations with, maybe sitting down with for coffee. You didn't think that what you said was going to be that big of an impact. Then they come back and tell you, hey, this changed the way I did business, or that changed the way I communicated. That's such a great thing to hear.
And even helping them, in their family life and their personal life. So I think it's great. And listen, I think, Chris, the reason I'm so excited about doing this with you is just this two-way conversation that we're having right now, where we're sharing similar but different experiences, but with one common goal, with one why. If anybody, has read Simon Sinek,
Yep,
he talks
absolutely.
about your why. And
Mhm.
it's obvious that your why and my why is I'm doing this because I want people to learn and be better. And
Yep.
that's really fascinating to me because that's what makes me so passionate and makes you so passionate. And if you understand what your why is, you're going to be passionate as well.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think at a later time that may be a great discussion that we have together, is going over the idea of the big why and how that can be transformative in whatever you're doing. So whether you're looking to improve your skills or enhance your leadership or just stay ahead in the ever evolving business landscape, we want to be here for you and want to help you in any way we can. So without any further ado, I'd like to have Jose go ahead and launch our talks today by talking about navigating today's difficult markets.
Yeah, Chris, regardless of where you sit today, what industry you're in, we happen to, be, most recently in the real estate business, but it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Things, are complicated right now, whether it's the economy, it's the political climate, it's, things happening in particular in our industry, in the real estate industry. And it's important to step back and understand, again, we talked about your why, but the why of your product or your company or your service or whatever it is that you sell. Because if you understand that, and then you take the time to really understand what your prospective customers are going through or your clients are going through, then you can bring that back and you can really help them understand how they're going to get through this time. But if you're panicked and if you don't know your why, and if you can't make sense of, what's going on and how you can help, then it's going to be really difficult and you're going to be reactive to whatever's going on versus really being able to sit back and be strategic about it. And I think, Chris, in your world of corporate training, I think that's important because what we're trying to teach here is at some level discipline, right? And not panicking. So when things are not going so well and it's a tough business dynamic out there, you just have to kind of take, bites. You can't eat an elephant in one bite, right? You get to understand, take those little chunks out and understand what it is that's going on, and then how your why is going to help address that issue. So any particular thoughts on your side from a training perspective?
Oh, absolutely. I think when you see things change, we're so apt to just make a 180 or change course very quickly rather than take a moment to say, okay, what actually changed? Is this something that was just superficial? And even if it is a seismic change, take a moment, evaluate what exactly it is. And I think that's where training comes in, to go ahead and say, well, how can we face this new challenge without panicking, without changing direction fully? To say, can we stay the course toward our North Star, toward that why, and make sure we are really dialed in on that.
Well, it's funny. I'm by no means a stock expert, but I have a particular amount of stock that has been going up pretty dramatically over the past 3 or 4 months. And, I was thinking about selling it a week or so ago. And, I just wasn't sure if I should do it or not. Don't really need the money right this second. I've been trying to diversify my portfolio and have a few things that maybe will have a higher return and something a little bit safer. So I just didn't do anything. I was kind of on the fence. I asked my wife and she says, do whatever you want, which is nice that she says that, but
Right.
didn't really help me make my decision. And so I kind of, waited and waited, and and then the stock market crashed a week or so ago. But you know what? Because I've seen these cycles happen over the years. I remember the first time I was in that similar situation 25 years ago or so, I flipped out. Oh my God, I lost all this money. In this scenario, I said, you know what? I didn't need the money right now anyway, right? The stock's going to get back to where it was. And it didn't drop super dramatically, right? So it's still
Mhm.
okay. And I'm actually, and right now it's funny. I'm looking at the ticker today, and it's almost back to where it was a week ago. So it's like, you know what?
Yeah.
But again, this is like what you just said right there. If people panic and do a 180, had I, for example, panicked today that the market crashed, I probably would have lost a bunch of money versus hanging out and making sure that so I know my why. I don't need the money today. And so I'm thinking about the future versus thinking about right now, how much money
Absolutely.
I may have lost because if I would have made the decision to sell it.
Yep.
So I
Absolutely.
think that's so, but again, this goes back to discipline and experience, and going back to me coaching salespeople and you training, folks at companies. It's all about discipline and teaching that discipline to stay focused on that why. And I know we're going to probably, get people get sick of hearing it, but I really firmly believe that if you can internalize that, then it's going to really give you, as peace. Honestly,
Yeah.
honestly, as I saw the stock go down the other day, I was okay, fine. It went down, big deal. It's going to come back, right?
Mhm.
Versus do something silly.
Yeah, I think when there's a really big change, again, it does affect training, and maybe we need to do something very different. And sometimes, especially in training, we throw a video at everything, and we think we need to spend a gigantic amount of time and effort creating huge trainings. And sometimes it's just having a conversation. That's why it's really important to find out what really changed. And sometimes this can just be a mentoring session, a quick meeting, a stand-up meeting even. You don't have to create a huge training session because something changed. And so again, it's about keeping your head, moving forward, and just being calm throughout these changes.
And one more really, really important thing for all you salespeople out there and leaders for that matter. If you're not panicked, your employees aren't panicked. Your customers aren't panicked. If you're not panicked, you're not panic selling, if you will.
Mhm.
Because I mean, I've seen plenty of desperate salespeople that they were behind on their quota, and they feel like they're going to lose their job, and they start doing stupid stuff, right? And they start
Yeah.
selling, push, 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 push. And let me tell you something: consumers, whatever the consumer is, whether it's a consumer buying a house or a consumer of a product at a big real estate company, they can
Yeah.
tell if you're desperate. And
Yeah.
if things are going, tough right now, business wise, and you come in cool, confident, and disciplined, and asking questions, and hopefully, giving that vibe off to that person you're trying to sell to, they're going to really, really appreciate it. And I think, again, as leaders, right, we owe it to our employees as well as salespeople owe it to our customers to not panic, regardless of what's going on around you.
Yeah, as leaders, we're helping others succeed, and it's really hard to do that if you're in a panic. And so it is about keeping your head when everybody else is losing theirs, and being able to be in a position to actually help, rather than you're running for cover yourself. And that's what leaders just have to buckle up and do, is stay calm during those times to help.
And the other thing that I would add, Chris, is systems, having systems, having a process. So I love giving analogies and examples throughout my life, because I think it's important, and I think people should think about it this way too, because people can relate. Unfortunately, I was going through a tough time with my mother-in-law, having got sick a few years ago, and I remember being at the hospital and being told by the hospital, "Hey, you need to get her into a physical therapy or nursing home or something." She couldn't stay at the hospital, and like I'd never dealt with this stuff before. So I'm looking at my wife, and of course, my poor wife. I mean, she's struggling because that's her mom. And I went into another room that was empty, and I thought, okay, well, I'm going to approach this like I approached a sales thing. I made a list of all the different nursing homes and physical therapy places, and I just started calling. And I got to tell you, I felt so much better about it because I actually had a plan, because I went back to the systems that I used in sales, right? And so I think that's so much of this is about, having the discipline, and having the systems in place, because then you can go on autopilot, right? You know what to do, right? Regardless of what's going on around you.
Yeah, it's always great to have a routine of any sort. It just helps you ground every single day to say everything around me may change, but I do have control over these things. This is the way I do things. This is the way I perform. And again, if you try to change everything up every time there's a change, it's just a very unsettled way of going about business and life in general.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think one thing maybe in kind of wrapping up, this particular session, Chris, is, having people think about, where they are, and, what their why is and how they're dealing with it, and really kind of self-assess, right? Listen, at this stage of my life, obviously I still self-assess, but I have much more knowledge now, right? So it's easier. 20 years ago, I couldn't, because I didn't have the 20 years experience that I have today. So I think that it's important for someone to be honest with themselves and self-assess. Okay, where am I? Do I have a why? Do I panic in kind of stressful situations? Am I coming across as desperate? Again, I'm talking about salespeople here because that's my expertise. And I would ask you to give your thoughts, and really be honest with yourself, and take notes and think about, okay, how am I going to address each one of these things? And then, give yourself goals. I'm a big believer in positive reinforcement. So I have a list of affirmations that I started, gosh, probably right out of college, when I started thinking about these things. And I go back to those affirmations on a regular basis. You set them up as, personal affirmations, like, what you want in your life, marriage, kids, whatever, what you want, in your professional life, and what you want financially. And it's like, you look at it, I go back and say, I've accomplished most of the things that I set out to do. And that's a really, really nice feeling to have. But it's got to start with self-assessment and not being afraid to, realize that, maybe I'm not doing so well in this area. So let's go work on it.
Yeah, two things you mentioned. I think when you mentioned being at this place in your career where you've seen a lot, this is why it's good for all of us to kind of connect with people across different experience levels. I think I love connecting with some younger folks because they have such innovative ideas. They're in the middle, they're kind of still in that dream phase, and that's wonderful. But it's also connect with those who've been in it for a while as well, because they've seen so much. And that's why they're kind of impervious to all the changes. They're like, I have gone through so many different changes. I came out the other side. There's no need to panic. And it's great to have that interaction. And the second thing regarding affirmations, it is so great, first of all, to properly assess. So you're not giving yourself false affirmations, but properly assess. But it is a great thing to have those affirmations in front of you, because as you well know, once you get into the workplace, you're not going to have everybody around you affirming you. People are usually pretty busy, or they're so concerned about other things. They don't have time. Unfortunately, they should have time, but we often don't have time to think about others. You do have to think about yourself just a little bit and say, how am I going to get through this day despite what anybody else says? I know this is true about me. I know this is true about what I'm doing. I know this is true about my character, and I'm ready to move forward in that knowledge.
Yeah. Well, listen, Chris, I think this has been great. We've launched this series, as Chris said at the beginning, because we want to impart our knowledge and we want to help people, right? That's our why. So I'll let Chris let you know how to get a hold of us, but please let us know what you want to hear about. I mean, we picked this particular topic today just because we know it's kind of top of mind right now. But we're open. Throw anything at us. What do you want to hear about? Because again, even though Chris and I intersect at some level, we have a little bit different personalities, a little bit different tacks, but again, it's all about the same things. How do we help folks get through things, and how do we help folks be better?
Yeah, you can reach us at skyrocketchatter@gmail.com. I'll put that on the screen for you. And you can do several things with that. Please do let us know. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover, we'd love to do that for you. And also, if there's a consultation you'd like to have, just meet with us, maybe online for a little bit. We'd be happy to schedule something like that with you if we could be of help to you. So that'll be up there for you to communicate with us. And we look forward to our next time together.
Thanks, Chris. Great to see you as always.
All right. Talk to you later.